All right, guys, I'm sorry for being late and I apologize. I was on the phone with my friend Michelle, who I went live with, and I blame her. So, Michelle, if you're watching this, because she said she's watching this, and that, I'm just starting like that. I was like, it's my friend, and that's why, and I'm just joking. Anyway, wait, why am I hear myself twice? What did I do? Oh, no. Where is it? Do you guys hear me once or twice? Okay, now it disappeared. Oh no. No. Alright. I have too many tabs open. That's my punishment. All right, everybody. I apologize. I apologize. It's just driving me crazy that I hear everything twice, but I guess I take that as a chance to excuse myself and saying, hey, let's wait for people to join in before I say anything. Yeah, you guys for sure hear me. Where is it? Where is it playing? Oh, I found it. Yeah. All right. Okay, now life is good, and I finally thank you, unusual AI, for your super sticker, which unfortunately I cannot see in this platform that I'm using, but let me describe it. All right, thank you so much for support. Okay, everybody, here's the thing, all right? When you go to sleep with dogs, you wake up with fleas. And this is what I think we're seeing happening right now. And I think it's such an awful lesson to learn this way, but other people making mistakes. Sheikh Yamim, peace be upon you, sister. Thank you for your support. Thank you so much. So this live is about whatever is being done to Turning Point USA. All right. So I've been watching. I've had my own criticism on Charlie Kirk and everything that was going there. But in the end of the day, this person did something that was extremely important. Extremely important. He went out and he presented something that universities today, they don't know what it is. And that is debate, conversation, and the ability to present your opinion, something that is basically unheard of in a context of university, especially in the United States as it is today. So at its core, at its refined basic core, what he did was super important enough to also get murdered for, but incredibly important. And I think that was seen and recognized by many. And this is why he had so much donations and donors coming in to support his cause and what he was promoting and everything that he was doing. And we're seeing this very interesting situation on the American right, where influencers, especially people like Megyn Kelly and what's her name, the child, what's her name? Okay, well, you know who I'm talking about. Like all these, Matt Walsh, all refusing to name the situation that they're at, where there are parts of the so-called right who are, let's say, they're promoting all kind of ideas that might not be very conservative in nature. And they might be like Eden Sones, for example, who just goes ahead and reads the Quran. She reads the effing Quran. And Tucker Carlson that says beautiful things like, oh, what's the problem with Sharia, right? I don't even know how Sharia. How does he pronounce it? It doesn't pronounce it this Sharia. He pronounces it somewhere else. But it's like, what's the big deal? And Islam, it just means surrendering to God, right? What's wrong with that? There is nothing wrong with that, obviously. So the night before, right, the events before his death, Charlie Kirk, and thank you, by the way, Anna, for saying the child is Brett Cooper. Thank you for understanding who I'm speaking of. And yeah, he pronounces it like pariah, but yeah, Sharia. All right. And where's everybody? I feel like we're having a very slow start today, but I guess it's my fault. And so before he got executed, Turning Point USA was supposed to switch gears. And what Charlie Kirk had realized that the way to unite the right, there is one thing everybody agrees on, and he understood, which is absolute truth. They must fight Islam. So he was shifting it into the direction that says, oh, you know what? Here's the thing. Pro-Israel, anti-Israel, here's something we can all agree on. Islam is not a good idea. We don't want Islamism in the United States. We don't want Sharia. We don't want Quran. We don't want all those laws that they bring with them. We don't want terrorism. We don't want those things. So this is something that we could all agree on. So he brought over apostate prophet to speak in the event and present the case of how Islam works and why it's a threat for the United States, as we can see with the dear Zoran Mamdani. But here's the thing, right? The so-called right in the United States, just the way it positioned itself is that we are not woke. And what does it mean that they are not woke? For them, not being woke means, well, they're not transgenders and they're not ultra feminists, as they like saying, but that is the only common basis they have. So in a sense, you can see that actually, if you define it this way, as in they don't like women, first and foremost, right? They want trad wives, that women who stay at home, because they have such a very interesting delusional understanding of what a woman is and what women are supposed to be doing. And I guess that is something that they probably do have in somewhat in common, even though all those trad wives that are on the right obviously don't really live the lifestyle they advocate for. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on social media. And it's an impossible lifestyle to have in a lot of places anyway. And it was never the norm historically. But you see, history interests them just as much as it interests the other side. But it's just basically a lot of people who were somehow kicked out of the woke left and then went to the other side. But did their thinking change? No. Was it not Cadence Owens who held a website to actually dox every conservative she could find because she used to be such a leftist? Yes. But I guess she said something somewhere because these people are merciless and got kicked out of the club. So she moved to the other side and got clout on the other side. It's not that they are very principled. So what we are seeing is a continuation of what I was talking about yesterday. These are people who never learned how to think at all. Whatever happened on the left happened on the right. It happened to conservatives and it happened to liberals, because not asking questions, in a sense that not learning how to ask questions, because none of those questions that they're asking are actual real questions. First of all, most of the questions are rhetorical, and it comes from a place that says we already know the answer. We just say it I'm just asking questions. Sweetheart, you're not asking questions. A person that asks questions wants to learn something he didn't know before. You're just asking questions to demonstrate that you have a certain knowledge that you want to, just wave and just throw and just use a flag and like as something to brag with to your audience. Not that you have a question, you have an answer to that supposed question that you made up, obviously. And when you are asking questions, you're actually saying, hey, I have the answer to this question. Subscribe, like, comment, and follow me because you want to know the answer to the question that I have the answer for. This is not asking questions. Asking questions in an act of curiosity is willing to do the inquiry. It's going all the way, is to check what the truth is. And let me understand something. Let me start. I don't usually do it. I don't usually bring the Bible. But I want to make something very clear. You see, after the Adam and Eve, they had they tried a fruit that they weren't supposed to be eating. What did Mr. God do? God itself. He said, "Where are you?" Well, they were hiding in the bushes. And they found them. And he asked, "Why are you in the bushes?" And he said, "Because we're naked." But they said, like, "Who told you you are naked?" Are you saying that God, who is all knowing, needs to ask those questions to know what happened? Why does he do that? Why does he ask? Why does he inquire? Why does he want to understand and let people have a chance to choose whether they take responsibility for their actions or they don't? He gives a chance to maybe explain themselves or maybe just, let them. And that is God. And he did the same with Cain. He asked Cain, "Where is your brother? What happened?" Why does God do that? He inquires. Those are questions that I'm asking so that people would have a chance. If God does proper inquiry as a judge, what makes you think you can judge anyone without inquiring? What? What makes them think that? These people think they're gods. They think they're above God. You see, God was not a cynical person. It's not. You see, this is where people are thinking when you read it and you have a Greek mind. Oh, obviously, God knew everything. Those were just, he was trapping them, right? He was setting a trap for these people so that they would encounter themselves to mock them. But it's not true. God, the Jewish God, does not do that. He inquires because it's the right thing to do. And when he inquires, sometimes, right, when he makes a case, the prophets would bring a counter case and there would be a discussion and what's the right thing to do here. Should we just eliminate Sodom at its entirety, or should we find the righteous people inside and let them escape? Should we punish the entirety of there is a conversation here. And if God does it, if judgment is based on inquiry, you know how many times the Bible says that you need to make sure that you asked, you inquired, you never make a judgment without doing a due process. And yet these people, they're asking questions where they don't do all those things. You know why? Not only that they think that they're gods, they think they're above a god. Because the God they're supposedly following, the God that is in the Bible, the God that they proclaim when they say Jesus is king, he would inquire. The New Testament says that you shouldn't ask questions as a rhetorical question. You shouldn't ask questions when you know the answer. Those are not questions. So they pretend to be Christian, even if they throw away the Old Testament like Hitler did, which is the Hitler version of Christianity. He said, like, I accept the New Testament, but not the old one. So you can say, okay, the old one takes inquiry a lot more seriously than Christianity, than the New Testament does. So this is too much. But even the New Testament does way more than what they're doing. So they think, you know what they think? They think they are beyond gods. They think they have absolute zero morality. Yeah, of course, Hitler didn't love the New Testament either. He just despised the old one even more. So at first he advocated for the Christianity without the Old Testament, I guess. And after that, he realized that the New Testament is also not very good for his agenda, and he was like against that one too. Just like Cadence Owens reading the Quran now, right? She was like, Christ is king. They're like, but like it's not Judeo-Christians. We don't like the Judeo part. This is the Hitler path that Hitler took. Hitler took this path. He didn't like the Judeo part in Judeo-Christian. And then he realized he didn't really quite like the Christian part of Judeo-Christian either. So he threw that to the trash just as much. So they went and suddenly Hitler started complimenting, guessed what religion? Islam. And so does Cadence Owens. And so does Tucker Carlson. They are dogs. And another guy that is a dog is the one that is now leading like the program, the one that is, I don't remember his name, but the one that is replaced Charlie Kirk. He's also a dog. Those dogs had tons of fleas on them. Right, I know, donkeys, thank you. They're donkeys, 100%. Not if I like dogs, I agree. Even I like donkeys too, I don't want to, like, they're not dogs, they're not donkeys, they're humans that went wrong, which is the worst animal. Honestly, the worst animal that you can think of. So I want to talk about a couple of things here. So first of all, where do I even start, seriously? By the way, first of all, we have so many conspiracy theories on how Charlie Kirk had died. Every person that he genuinely was friends with is being chased, whether it's his best friend, his wife, anyone who genuinely was there to support him, love him, and be there for him is being persecuted by the crowds of these people that he thought he could be friends with. And I want to add another thing. So Charlie Kirk, he was very young. He was 31. That is extremely young. And so he believed in the Bible, didn't he? So what does the Ten Commandments say? The Ten Commandments say, respect your mother and father. Why do I bring up the respecting your elders, your mother and father? Because when you are running something like Turning Point USA, those who are your donors, in that case, they are your father and mother. Why am I saying that? You see, the donors, the reason they had invested money is that they understood the gravity of the situation enough to give millions to Charlie Kirk. They saw that he's a charismatic man that has strong values, that believes in the Judeo-Christian values. They believe that needs to be strengthened. And yet, so they came from maybe a way better understanding of what they're giving money to and for than Charlie Kirk himself. He had the intuition, but he was still young. So those donors, they're like the parents. And when the Bible says, respect your mother and father, it means listen to them and don't understand that those with experience might have much more life experience and knowledge to see where things can go, how people really behave, who they're really like, and what could happen if you don't act properly. And they told him, don't tie your name with Tucker Carlson. It's wrong. Don't invite him to any events. And he thought that that is a violation of his independent decision making, not understanding that actually he was going against the commandment that says respect your father and mother when he did so. Because right now, his name is getting tarnished. And what do you know what is your reputation? What does it mean that his name got tarnished? Do you know what commandment is this? This is a punishment of a very specific commandment that is in the 10 Commandments. See, if you use God's name in vain, you get punished by a reputation that is tarnished. That is what happens when you use God's name in vain. And right now, I don't want to say, I think he believed it 100%. And I really want to see his name getting cleared. But the way his name is getting dragged through the mud after his death, that is the consequences. That's the consequence in the Bible. This is the promised punishment for those who use God's name in vain. And that's scary to see. The 10 Commandments were written for a reason. And if we don't understand how to apply them in our lives and how it would look like, then it's a problem. And right now is getting. I really hope that God would clean his name. I really hope he didn't use God's name in vain. Mahmoud, thank you so much for your support. Let me just share everything that's been going on. First of all, this is super random, but the officer Tatum was one of the ones who are so much on it. And I want to really share some. And he's live right now, so I'm just going to pop in and just, spy to see what's going on here. What he's talking about is really, he sees that he's seeing that. But just so you guys understand the situation here, okay? If you go around and you believe in Judeo-Christian values the way Charlie Kirk did, and you go against the actual Torah, I mean the actual laws that you are advocating for, like what he did when he didn't listen to his elders, which is respecting your mother and father. Yes, in this situation, the donors are mother and father. It's people who invest in you because they believe in you. And now he's getting punished as if he used God's name in vain. And that is scary to see. That is very scary to see. So here, I don't know where it is now, but just to
in the hospital to get her. I catch his butt outside the hospital. He runs like a coward. And I was just waiting to be able to fill him with lead if he done anything but comply. And then he gets out and go, I'm a black man. Don't shoot me. Hands up, don't shoot. I'm a black man. Don't kill me. And he then punched this girl in the head. And what do you know? After all of that, I drive by to check on her. Drive by the house. She's in my beat. I drive by. Oh, his car's right there. He coming out of the house. I knew something was wrong when the daughter, who was the lady who got knocked out, was holding her grandchild. When we told the daughter, hey, your mama's headed to the hospital. Here. She just got knocked unconscious. The baby is here.
I don't know what he's talking
about. Come get your baby.
But let me go back a little bit.
Will take the opportunity to get money and push conspiracies. Then there's people who cannot receive or...
Here, let me go back a little bit more.
The turning point thing. I'm not going to get crazy on here. I was crazy live earlier on my Instagram. And I said a lot of stuff that I meant, but I didn't want to say it. But I had to say it on there. But I'm going to be a little nicer on here. Can I be nice today? Can we have fun today? I don't want it to all be gloom and doom. But what's happening against Turning Point, in my personal opinion, is wrong. I want you guys to understand what is happening and why these things are happening. There are people who handle stress and loss and confusion very differently. You got people who, when there's a loss of life and there's opportunities to be had, they're going to take advantage of the opportunity. You know, it's funny because Alex Jones is my favorite guy. I used to love listening to Alex Jones every day. Now I realize that there is a movement of conspiracies that you never have to prove them to be right. You just have to say the conspiracies and you can become rich, even if it's somebody you know. If you push enough conspiracies and you lie enough, you can be rich. And there's people who will take the opportunity to get money and push conspiracies. Then there's people who cannot receive or accept the fact that Charlie could have been killed by some weirdo who had access to the top of a building and ended up taking his life. And that, therefore, they're susceptible to listen to conspiracies. And then there's people who are like me, who say, wait a minute. I don't care how much money can be made. I don't care what people are saying on the internet. I want to be consistent and fair when I dig into any situation. The same thing I did when I was a cop. I don't care about my emotions. I don't care about none of that. I have to get down to the nitty gritty and get down to facts. Every time you watch me, when I talk about a police shooting, when I talk about any of these things, I make sure that I do my due diligence first. And I rule out all the stuff first before I present it to you. It makes no sense for me to say, what if the what if was a what if when the what if before the what if was what if? And then get you all riled up. And you know what? Wait till my next show. Wait till the next clip. Wait till the next post. I know all the tea, but I don't want to tell you all the tea now because I want to keep making money off of you. So I'm going to drip it and drip to the end. So let's talk about Terrell. Now they put his name out there. I'm going to call his name. Terrell is one of the nicest, coolest, faithful guys that I have ever met in my life. I've been working with Terrell since I first started Turning Point. When he first started, I have done probably 20 or 30 events with Terrell. When I was going on tour for the last 2 years on all these college campuses, many of them, Terrell was there. And Terrell set up the tent. He put on my lapel mic. He monitored the cameras. And he endured for 3 hours every time, listening to people that say the craziest things you can ever think you can hear of. He did the same thing with Charlie. Terrell is a good dude. And they now are using him.
So notice what they're doing. You know what they're doing? You know why? I'm telling you, every person that they are targeting, Eric Kirk, I think it was Josh, the Jewish guy in Turning Point USA. This dude, I don't know any of them, but let me tell you one thing. I think what they all have in common is that those are all truth seekers. They're trying to build a cult inside Turning Point USA. They're trying to turn it into a cult that is a pyramid scheme and use those people who go to Turning Point USA to take over the United States in general. That's the plan. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? It's a different question, but that's their plan. And they have a very similar ideology to the Nazi ideology. And they're willing to work with Islam because it's also a very similar ideology to the Nazi ideology. So they're making sure, you know what they're doing? You think they're just choosing targets because they really are suspicious of them in any way, shape, or form? Do you think Aaron Owens sits there and thinks, oh, yes, I'm sure this pastor's son, right, which was Charlie's best friend, he did something? No. Those assholes behind the scenes, they just listed every person that might be decent enough to, let's say, go against the idea that Turning Point USA should be turned into an organization of slavery, slavery pyramid scheme like Nazism was. They're going to use all the brainwashed kids that were brainwashed to never ask any questions and have a very, 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 very weak identity, in a sense that they only think in a group thinking. And they are absolutely not people that, how do I say it? Oh, I know, I have an easy one. They would just follow orders because that's what this group is being made out of. And I have enough receipts to show it. And here's the thing. Let me share with you. So there is another guy here. His name is Tinashe. And he brought a Christian, who brought over to his channel a Christian girl that she actually grew up in Israel. And she was in those events, that the Turning Point in USA events. And she said exactly what was going on in there. But before you watch that, there's a little bit of something that I want to show you here. So this is
organization
here, Nick Fuentes, who really does really goes and follows the footsteps of Hitler. And because I have another receipt that I would show you about what he had said.
Whether he chooses to confront me or not, whether he has dignity and honor or not, it's just a matter of time. My ideas are already there. I've already impregnated your organization. I took Turning Point USA and I fucked it. I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I fucked it. And I've been fucking it. And that's why it's filled with groypers. That's why your whole crew, that's why the people around you, that's why your chapter presidents, that's why your attendees, they're all groypers. So whether you choose to confront me or not over the honor of your Turning Point USA, it's immaterial to me. I'd like it. I just get a sick satisfaction out of it because I like to win. But we're already there. And this whole ideology, Zionism plus free market, it's dead either way. You know it. I know.
Notice what he said. Zionism plus free market. You need to understand that at their core, I made several videos explaining what does it mean to have a pyramid society. And pyramid society is always a slavery society with people designated to be slaves. These are people who are trying to build pyramid schemes of slavery economics. All right? Everybody who is not white is going to be a slave in their minds. In Islamic minds, everybody who is not Muslim is a slave. It's the same thing. Those are pyramid societies. The economy is based on exploitation and people who are designated to be their slaves. All right? It's very important to understand that point. Okay.
Pretty much the whole world knows it's over. In the last 7 years, who's moved closer to who? Could anybody accuse me of stealing Charlie Kirk's ideas? No. Has Charlie Kirk every step of the way moved in degree closer to me? Tried to ape my bit, my ideas, my style? Oh, no question. No question. We already own you. We own you. We own Turning Point USA. We own this movement. Whether you decide to have dignity about it and face me or not, that's up to you. That's something you'll have to tell your children. When Nick Fuentes became the future, when the Groypers took over the movement, did you take a valorant last stand? Were you courageous? Were you bold? Did you go down swinging or did you go down like a bitch? Did you run and hide? That's the only thing when you're explaining that to your family, Mr. Family Man. When you're explaining to your wife, when she...
Listen to it closely. And there is one thing I want you to understand. This is what they're doing when they took question in a way, right? When they took the ability for people to ask questions and they actually ripped, right? If it's the same neurological system in the brain, asking questions and identity, then they ripped their identity out of them. They created a layer of soldiers that would be the executionists, that would do whatever they were told to do. And they would follow orders, all right? And when they follow orders, they would do whatever the leaders would tell them to do. But they are the soldiers, they're not the slaves. There's another layer that is designated to be the slavery layer. I think when it comes to Nick Fuentes, he is planning to do that with anyone who is dark-skinned, right? Everybody who is black is gonna be a slave in his pyramid. The Jews don't have room in that. Jews are always in line for extermination. Why? Because Jews had brought to the world the God that always does his due diligence, the God that explained exactly how to get yourself out of slavery and how to have a free market. So what they're doing is they're building a slavery system. You have the people who are designated to be soldiers, the zombies, right? They are everybody that is the white Christian majority of the United States. This is who is targeting. They had never learned how to think in the education system they grew up in because it was already infiltrated and destroyed by the USSR, by Qatar, and by the Islamists. And of course, what they wanted to use that for is their causes, but but their causes align with Nick Fuentes just as much as they align with BLM. Honestly, it doesn't make any difference which pyramid scheme they are choosing. It would ruin America either way. And the goal here is to ruin America.
She's saying, why won't you just debate Nick Fuentes? And you got to explain to her, when your kids grow up, why didn't you just confront Nick Fuentes? You got to explain to them why you were afraid, why you were a coward. That's the only.
They weren't. They couldn't. They don't have identities. They don't have backbones. They don't have spines. They never grew them. It was surgically removed out of them, way more than their balls or ovaries were.
Only difference. Immaterial to me. We already won. But anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at this.
So I'll show you, and I'll show you what he's trying to do. I think I hope I have it saved here close. Do I watch BBD podcast? I do from time to time, but not really, actually. Rarely that I do. Okay, while I'm looking for what I'm trying to prove here, let me show you what had happened inside the Turning Point USA event, the one that the apostate prophet participated in. And that is a guy named Tinashe. 1 second. It's a very strong, by the way. I do encourage you to go watch the entire interview once you see what I'm talking about after it loads. Here. All right.
It's just like this Israeli looking duck. Yeah. And somebody broke into my car and used a red Sharpie and put bullet holes in it to be funny, which is not funny. All of my other ducks were not targeted.
So I want to introduce you guys to a new friend of ours by the name of Eden, or Eden, as you said in Hebrew, right? And besides that being an absolutely wonderful name to have, shout out to the folks.
Thank you.
You sent me an interesting message. And in this message, a few things caught my attention. Number one is that you describe yourself as a Gentile who is also an Israeli, who is also a Christian. So I really want to get into your story, But then what also caught my attention is, I guess, the people that you've had access to, or more specifically been in community with, right? You seem to be somebody who's tapping in with all sorts of people, right? From Holocaust survivors, IDF, and things of that nature. And so I want
Everybody raise your right hand.
Here, I
Repeat
found
after
this.
me. I will kill, rape, and die for Nicholas J. Fuentes.
That's the video. I will kill, rape, and die.
Raise your right.
So this is what I was talking about. He knows what he's doing, which is amazing. I appreciate it. But I want to say something like, they chase people knowing what they're doing. They're not stupid, all right? They are raising an army of mindless zombies that would follow whatever order. And this is exactly how it works. You know how they keep saying that those who were interviewed and asked about why did they follow the Nazi commandment, and say like, oh, why did they mass murder people? Why did they enslave Slavs? Why did they do all those things? And they said, oh, we were just following orders. This is a well-written playbook. If you know how to create a generation that their identity had never formed because their ability to ask questions was suppressed so hard, and they only know to identify themselves as the group they belong to, then this is the soldiers that are created. And then there is a designated slavery class. This is something that is very, very, very easy to make happen. And they did it on purpose. It was not Nick Fuentes who started that. It started in the 60s. On purpose. On purpose. On knowing 100% what they're doing. And it was a lot of different elements that had come together to bring down the West. Who started it? That's an easy answer. The Muslims, the communists, and the Nazis. The remnants of the Nazis had teamed up with the communists and the Islamists, and they built a plan together to make what we're seeing now possible. All the way back. Yes, that's who. Listen closely, and I want you to understand what he's saying is entire truth. You see, it's very easy to think, oh, this is an exaggeration. Oh, they would not do it. I use my right hand, and I tell you right now that he's a smart dude. They had already made sure to hack the minds of a generation to make sure that their identities are weak enough to be soldiers, mindless soldiers that would follow whatever command. And he just stepped into a very, very ripe environment. And listen closely right now. What he's saying is 100% truth.
Raise your right hand. All right, everybody raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I will kill, rape, and die for Nicholas J. Fuentes.
All right. I hope we are ready to accept reality as is. Good. Now let's go back here and hear what had happened at TPUSA. Let me skip ahead a little bit so that.
Walked out, it was so silent. The people who were cheering at these big moments.
So a little bit of a background. So what I understood, she's from Mexico. Her parents moved to Israel in some like to work, and so she is a non-Semitic Christian girl who grew up in Israel. All right.
It starts small.
Absolutely.
It starts really small, and it's
So I guess it starts.
speak in real time and chuckle at
Oh, you
these
know what?
issues.
I'm guessing she dives right into the topic right away, so I'll just go back.
And I also attended the Turning Point Student Action Summit, which would be Charlie, located here to Florida.
Wow, amazing. She starts talking about it right away. I forgot. Amazing.
I guess the people that you've had access to, or more specifically been in community with, right? You seem to be somebody who's tapping in with all sorts of people, right? From Holocaust survivors, IDF, and things of that nature. And so I want to take it down that road and really kind of give us a framework around your own story. But the first question I have for you is why? Why do you do what you do? Why are you speaking up? Why is it worth it in the first place?
Yeah, so I was raised in Israel most of my life, and I recently just relocated here to Florida. And I wanted to serve in the IDF. So growing up, all my friends were serving in the IDF. For visa situations and things like that, I wasn't able to. But at the end of every letter I got denying my access to serve, there was something that stood out to me that I didn't quite realize until maybe like a month ago. They had said, "We cannot take you for service, but we recommend you to take up arms on the media end of things and be an advocate for what's going on." And that really stuck with me. And I also attended the Turning Point Student Action Summit, which would be Charlie's last summit. And watching the way my generation is headed in the areas of all things pertaining to Israel was.
So Michael here is saying, wouldn't it be a shame they found out Fuentes was fed, letting the government know who they are? Those online rumors can sure fly. No, they can't. Unfortunately, those online rumors, I don't think they would have anyone who would care, because there is enough speculation to be made, right? Wasn't he part of the 6th of January situation, and he somehow got away from it unscathed? Like, there is enough like speculation to think that there is something, and I think Nick Fuentes is gay. Yeah, I heard that a lot. This is the thing when you build pyramids of people who don't question their identity is already tied down to Nick Fuentes, Kevin Sowens, and so on and so forth. They're mindless zombies who will do whatever it takes for their leaders, and it doesn't matter what they say, what kind of evidence you show them. Those are brainless, dangerous bots. And their identity that was taken away from them when they were young by the education system that was infiltrated and sabotaged decades before they were born in the United States meant that once they had chosen an external identity that was gifted to them by external forces, nothing would move them away from that identity, because there is nothing else at their core. So they would kill, murder, rape for ideas and lies, because there is nothing else they know how to do. There is nothing behind these people, nothing.
Absolutely startling.
Now, how far
back,
back was this? Not to cut you off, but I'm trying to put this in perspective for myself and our audience. So this was this year?
Yes, the Student Action Summit.
Okay, because
this year's.
And this is going to be an overall theme, especially with somebody with the sort of advocacy that you do. But I wasn't aware of just how bad this was until probably 8 or 9 months ago. And truth be told, is because that's when I started actually caring enough, right? And tapping into my humanity, as opposed to trying to, head in the sand. So, okay, so you're at this Turning Point event, and you don't have in the back of your mind, I'm about to face this. You just are thrown into it, and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it was the first evening, the last speaker everyone was so excited for, Tucker Carlson. That was who everyone was so hyped about. And watching him take the stage and speak in real time and chuckle at these issues and really just dismiss Israeli Americans from the stage, and really start saying these these things that I remember learning about as a child, when I learned about the beginning of World War II, when I walked through with tours the Holocaust Museum in Israel, it looked like, and I don't know if you've ever been, but the way he was speaking reminded me of the first rooms in that museum, where it talks about the language and the ideas that the Third Reich really began propagating. It starts small.
Absolutely.
It starts really small, and it starts with these negative agendas and these lies, really blaming the Jews for everything in the world. And there were small undertones, but they were loud enough to cause concern and alarm. And several of my friends who were also watching also felt that. My parents who were there, they felt that. And there was just this deep sense of urgency that, okay, now the battle has begun. Now the battle that we have been preparing for since we moved to Israel and educating ourselves on this, now the battle has begun. And I think that was, to say a turning point, right? And yeah, that's where I decided that I needed to start speaking about these things, and that if these people are going to lie about what it is to be a Christian in Israel, then I have to speak about my experience, not only as a Christian, but as a Gentile, and what the word says regarding that, and all of those things.
So I'm a little
So let me here. Thank you. Say thank you for Pristine Breeze for sending a super sticker saying wow. Thank you so much. And Sheikh Yamim, I too am black man. Yeah, there are a lot of black men here that we're gonna see today, but thank you. Japister, you say this is about when their friends go evil, but actually you look evil in the thumbnail. Yeah, do you appreciate the photo? I thought it would be a funny photo, but yeah, so I don't know who to trust. Japister, sweetheart, you know who you should trust? You should trust your own eyes first and foremost. And you should first of all decide on your moral system. What do you believe in? Do you understand why communism is a bad idea? For example, I think it's a bad idea, but did you do your due diligence to understand something very basic, as in why they're fighting against free market? Nuke Fuentes said it outright. And even when I had David Riboy here, who was a childhood friends with Vance, JD Vance, and I asked him about it, and he said, listen, like JD Vance does accept some labor ideas, like the Labor Party ideas that he funds out, is some of them he finds like attractive, which I don't know what exactly out of the Labor Party style ideas that he finds attractive, but I'd watch that. So here's the thing: what you need to know about who to trust is to first of all understand what kind of system is the system that you want to live in. Do you want to live in a free society? Do you believe in people trying to live in a moral way, respecting each other's boundaries, that people have, first of all, their own bodies, and you do not own anyone else's body, either for exploitation or sexually, and that people should be allowed to be compensated for their work properly, and so on and so forth? Or you believe that it's not always that things are ideal or anything like that, but do you understand that there are systems that had failed a million times over, that if you fall into that, it breaks down society? So here's what: you don't need to trust me. You need to understand who you are, who you want to be, what do you believe in. And if you understand what kind of things failed society before and you don't want them, reject them, then when I speak and then I say something that hints, for example, that I support some ideology that was proven to be disastrous before, it's all scientific, by the way, it's science, right? So people, when they have an ideology is just a thesis, it's like a theory, it's a suggestion, It's pretty boring, actually. It's something like, hey, let's run this through and see what kind of society it creates, and does it bring prosperity in life, or does it bring misery and death? So people suggest all kind of ideologies. They rerun the experiment, and we see the results. And then there are some ideologies which are literally the same ideology, just using different words, like pyramid schemes that are aiming towards slavery economy. Sometimes the blacks are the slaves, sometimes the Slavs are the slaves, sometimes both the Slavs and the blacks are the slaves, sometimes somebody is a slave. It's always the same, but it sounds different because, like, maybe the Chinese are the slaves, maybe the Koreans are the slaves, maybe it's very, very diverse in that sense. But in reality, like, you can see that they're basically the same ideology. Communism, the former bourgeois, they're the slaves now. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. Just like it every time they target, like, they use different schemes, but it's the same thing. So when you see that, this is what you need to be trusting. You trust experiments. You trust science. You trust things that were tried before and failed. You trust that they failed because they are a bad idea. Because every time you jump from a cliff, you end up hitting rocks. Every time you throw a rock, it always goes through this trajectory that fits the idea that there is gravity. Because every day when you wake up, you can see if something's going to happen just based on the laws of physics. It is science. Trust it. If somebody comes to you and say, listen, I know we tried to jump out of the roof a million times before, but I promise this time when we jump out of the roof, it's going to be successful. Then you say, I remember every time in history that people came and said, hey, let's jump and fly. We can fly. Then people just jumped and then hit the rocks and died. And there are so many times that people tried to do it, but it ended up being the same result every time. And every time people are very convinced that their method of jumping off the cliff would work, and somehow they wouldn't meet the rocks at the bottom. But they always meet the rocks at the bottom. So at some point, you have to have the backbone to say, hey, listen, just like there are laws of physics, there are laws of how to run society. Science. This is what science is for, research. Now, not everything is perfect, right? Not everything that we thought was true is true. But there are enough things there, like, we still to this day don't know exactly how we can fuse quantum mechanics and gravity. Does it mean that gravity is like something that, like, because we don't know exactly how gravity works, you should try jumping off the cliff again? We know gravity well enough to know that you're gonna meet the rocks at the bottom. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, maybe tweaks here and there, maybe gravity is a little bit, is it like, Newtonian? For your daily life, it doesn't matter if gravity is just, it falls, or without even an equation, or you have a Newtonian equation, or you have the relativity equation. It doesn't matter for you in your daily life, because if you go and jump off the cliff, you're gonna get the same result. So there is empirical experience. People say, hey, listen, here's the thing. We ran an experiment. A lot of people were driven off a cliff. They died every time. You see? It's like, we don't know why. We don't know the mechanism behind it. It's just the way it is. It's science. Communism, you guess what? You know who wrote about this kind of management of society in a sense of communistic? You know who wrote? about it? Aristotle did. Right, more than 2,000 years ago, described exactly the same mechanism I'm describing right now. Same result, same steps, same pyramid scheme, same disaster that followed every single time. Apparently, it's an anti-Semitic wink now to say every single time. Well, every single time the Jews try to warn the idiots and they get persecuted, and then those people who want to have those pyramid schemes and power, and to people to follow their orders to the T, they eliminate the Jews, and the others are very happy to get the Jewish money at first. But then when they start starving and dying en masse, they're like, maybe we went wrong somewhere. You know, with enough trauma, even the brainless grow a little bit of a brain. Most of them just hit the rocks, honestly, but you know. So what do I think? What do I think? Yeah, it was a exactly. Thank you. Pathetic. It was Plato. You're right. It was Plato, not Aristotle. So Plato's Republic, it's communism, but fancy. 100%. Yes, that's what I was saying. That's communism. He described communism, but fancy. Didn't work then, doesn't work now. So who should you trust? Science. So, So Jupiter saying, I was joking with my earlier super chat, but I like what you said. And I do have a unique way of viewing the world that I want to share with people. Good. I'm happy to hear that. You see, people who think they might be one person in a room, but that one person in a room is going to have way more value than all the others combined. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's continue.
Hung up on this one right here because I think I remember the exact video, and there was a sort of, I guess, from the crowd's perspective, and people were walking out. Is that
Yeah.
same whole spiel?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's sad. The people who walked out, it was so silent. The people who were cheering at these big moments where he was attacking Jews, attacking Israel, that was what was the loudest. And I'll tell you what, it was through the course of this summit, it was so sad to see the same young men who would take their hat off for prayer be the people who yelled the loudest at all of these anti-Semitic sentiments. And that was just, and something that wasn't recorded was they had the Fellowship of Christian and Jews speak at the platform. She spoke, and she spoke, Michelle Bachman is her name. She spoke about what they were doing in the land, and she was booed. She was booed. You won't find the video anywhere, but she was booed. Almost off stage. Wow. There was nobody paying attention. There was nobody listening. And something else that was interesting that caught my attention was, I don't know if you know AP, Apostate Prophet, he spoke.
That's right.
Nobody paid attention.
Yeah, 1 second here. By the way, I'm going to play it again for those who were slow and didn't realize what you were saying, because I think what you just described was super important. So this minute, I'm going to play again, just for the slow ones out there. And here, so someone named me is saying, she said, trust science. Where's the spirituality? Why, Rebecca? Well, if I say trust God, some people follow Allah, don't trust Allah. So I don't want people to get confused, okay? Trust science. It's better understood. This term wasn't yet as abused as God. The term God has been completely overridden, abused, and twisted. So science is a little bit better way to say it, unfortunately.
Summit, it was so sad to see the same young men who would take their hat off for prayer be the people who yelled the loudest at all of these anti-Semitic sentiments. And that was just and something that wasn't recorded was they had the Fellowship of Christian and Jews speaker speak at the platform. She spoke, and she spoke, Michelle Bachman is her name. She spoke about what they were doing in the land, and she was booed. She was booed, and you won't find the video anywhere, but she was booed almost off stage.
Wow.
There was nobody paying attention. There was nobody listening. And something else that was interesting that caught my attention was, I don't know if you know AP, Apostate Prophet. He spoke.
That's right.
Nobody paid attention. He spoke about the dangers of Islam to the West. Nobody paid attention.
So everybody, well, I can't say everybody. So you're telling me that a massive part of this crowd is waiting for the conversation to target the Jews, to scapegoat.
Yes.
Okay, so again, because I live in the world of information, but I also sort of live in my little cubby. Right. So I'm not, and maybe I should be doing more of these things, at least, God willing, that I go out into the world and engage more. But I'm sorry, you just put me back a little bit, because in my head, there's the world of X. There's the world of Instagram, complete cesspool. There's the world of, YouTube comments or whatever. And so you think to yourself, okay, is this real?
Right.
Not just as far as bots and things of that nature, right? We know there's an entire campaign, but is it that when I see the Groypers of the world or whatever, they're actually in existence? They're at these events. That the kids who are calling themselves Christians that I see on TikTok that are talking about Candace is the only person that I trust. Is this real?
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And there was even a kid who tried to antagonize. It was actually the same kid who asked Tucker Carlson about why he can't criticize Israel. And that if he burns an Israeli flag, I think that's what he said, that he'll get in trouble. He went and he antagonized a volunteer of the.
All right. Another thing that I think is very important to say is that a lot of boomers, and even people that are younger than boomers, try to blame the internet. I'll tell you something. The internet is actually, you only see things on the internet after they already manifested in reality, meaning the internet is behind. So whatever you see on the internet is only after the reality on the ground had been established. Those things, they work in real life. The internet is actually reflecting what is happening in real life in delay. And let me explain another thing. Why does it happen? Why do I think that it's not the internet? Well, because those things had happened before. It happened in Nazi Germany. It happened during the Tsar Russia. It happened before many times. And all those times, they didn't have internet. And all those times, it took them just as much. They needed the exact or even a shorter time frame to generate the same results. So that theory, the way you turn people into zombies, the way they did it with Islam, the way they did it with communism, the way they did it with Nazism, they didn't have the technology of the internet. And yet, not only that it happened, it took them exactly the same amount of time. Exactly the same amount of time. Even less. But literally exactly the same amount of time. So saying, and so not understanding that whatever is on the internet that looks extreme, real life is way worse than the internet. Way worse.
The Fellowship of Christian and Jews. He asked her all of these questions that unfortunately she was not prepared to answer. He ended up getting arrested and asked to leave. You're not really going to find any videos of this, but he was there, he caused a commotion, and it was all about Israel. It was all about why should America support Israel? Why am I anti-Semitic if I say these things? And just really getting up in her face, she cried, she left. And it's crazy that these Groypers are taking over the movement.
Yeah.
And they're yawning for the sane people.
Yeah.
And they're cheering for the Tucker Carlsons. They're cheering for these people that are, I don't, it's got to be a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
It really has to be, because there's no rationale behind it. And so it was really scary. And unfortunately, it taught me that
Everybody in the United States went through the same education system. They all had experienced the same mental, psychological torment and games, and they all came out twisted. So the problem is deep.
things that we're seeing on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they're real and they're growing.
Okay. So speaking of, I guess, the influence, because, I always feel that the devil targets the seed, right? It's always to get to the next generation. It's always to get to the child, or, in the most specific and most important, it is the seed that then led to the Savior through Christ, which, happens to be the Jewish people. For whatever given reason, happens to be for whatever given reason that the Creator chose this specific group of people and made this his own, and then grafted the rest of us in, etc. So I'm going to step into the world of propaganda.
I seriously, I promise you that all those things could be scientifically explained and be very have a very real life geographical boring reasons to why it is the Jews and why everything like that. But I think people don't like the boring explanations, so they like the spiritual thing more. So for the sake of the argument, that's good enough.
As well as now delving into sort of what's happening actually with Christians, or what is the Christian experience in Israel, right? I think that would be something of interest to a multitude of people.
Yeah.
I think this is something that's not getting talked about enough, but yet there's enough, propaganda to go around. So leading into that. So, okay, we leave this event. Were you already creating content? You already speaking?
No,
up? Oh, wow.
I wasn't. Wow. So this is very
You're
new
made
for
for
me.
this, by the way. You got
thank
you're
you.
a great communicator.
Thank you. I've been really trying hard. It's just something I feel passionate about. But what was the question again?
Okay, so I said, had you started creating content basically beforehand? Is this aftermath? What is that looking like?
Right. So I think that's basically all. Go check out the entire interview. I thought it was fascinating hearing them talk and just the stories. But yes. Here's another one. So we have I think maybe it's here.
If you go back to the original founding fathers,
Oh, actually, I think it's a good one. Let's start with Nissim Black here, and then what it looks like when Tucker tried to be Charlie Kirk.
intended this to be a European nation for white men of good stock and character.
Can you show me where in the United States Constitution it says that?
It wasn't in the Constitution.
It wasn't in the Constitution because they didn't believe it.
The founding.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Nissim Black Show. It's a pleasure whenever you're here. Nick Fuentes, ladies and gentlemen, I would say this: if you have never seen evil, unless you have seen Nick Fuentes, I would say that he is probably, absolutely, single-handedly, hands down, by far, probably one of the most evil people to ever be platformed. I think that he is probably, in our generation, he is Hitler reincarnated in the flesh. Now, there was some talk shortly after Charlie had passed because of the way that Nick spoke about him, and there was some worry or some talk.
Okay, I have to be honest about Nick Fuentes and the way he talks. I got a bit desensitized. Here's the thing. He's awful. He's a Hitler incarnated. But when I made my video about if we adjust Harry Potter and we here's the thing, Hitler was really bad, but Muslims are scarier. Like the Arabs are crazier. They're like sicker. They're sick, like on a different level. So I'm so used to hearing their speeches and like, Sinwar, by the age of whatever Nick Fuentes' age is, Sinwar probably killed like tons of people already by just scraping their skin off, like bit by bit, So and that's like the guy, like when I grew up, like this is the kind of like scary guys I got used to. So when I see Nick Fuentes, I'm like, yes, he's an Hitler incarnate, but compared to Sinwar, let's say, or like the Arabs, then it's like, it's like mild. Yeah. Talk about getting desensitized to complete lunacy.
Talking some musings that maybe Nick Fuentes was interested in fulfilling the role of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, sorry. Now, Charlie Kirk to Nick Fuentes is as far apart as you can get probably in the universe. They say that the largest distance that there is anywhere in the world, anywhere in the galaxy, is the distance between the mind and the heart, right? For me to take something that I know and for it to become a part of me, and for it.
He is a 27-year-old virgin. I think we'll be all right. But this is why I said, like, listen, like Nick Fuentes, I don't know if you understand the game you're playing, because he doesn't live in a vacuum where, like, some Muslim would take over his place or something, and that Muslim would be way more crazy than Nick Fuentes could ever be. I mean, unless they start. Here's the thing, because like the way they are crazy, it's something that you train since childhood. And if you don't like go through that training in those crucial years, you might not ever be such a big psychopath as they are. Which I don't know, maybe he is. And if he is, it's going to be the best thing because it could be caught, honestly. But like, I don't know, I think. But maybe he has a potential. Maybe we don't know everything about him. Maybe he can peel off people's skin out of them.
To be in my heart is a much harder thing to come to, right? Now, in terms of physical things in the world of spirituality, in the world of physics and things like that, there is a wide distance in between who Charlie Kirk was and Nick Fuentes. And that should never be mistaken. I have a clip right now that I'm going to share with you. Shout out again to Milk Bar, because he's like, I'm just saying, he's the best. I mean, so many other content creators are using these things, but shout out to Milk Bar. This clip is going to display for you how distant these two actually are. I mean, watch it, and try not to get upset. It's going to be hard. And also, too, another thing, before I play this clip, I want you to see the essence of Charlie. I watched this clip, I almost cried. Almost every time I see Charlie, I cry. My wife holds that if there was a such thing as, of what we would say the Lamed Vav, and the 36 hidden Tzaddikim of righteous people that, in Judaism we teach are completely hidden, but the whole entire world.
Like, I honestly have, like, I'm sorry, I went to bring some water. I honestly don't think he was one of those Lamed Vav Tzaddikim. I mean, what he did was incredible. But it's such a, like, I wish he listened. I wish he had listened to the donors. Like, what is being done right now is so destructive. And his reputation and name being tarnished like that. I really hope that my instinct that says, like, Charlie used God's name in vain, it's like, is wrong. And he was a tzaddik. But honestly, I don't know. This is what happens when you start playing with assholes.
World rest upon these people. She says it could be that Charlie Kirk is even in that, because the guy was an amazing individual in every way. But I want you guys to see this clip and see the essence. And for all of you who are calling Charlie Kirk a racist, this one's going to slap you in the mouth. Let's roll it.
This is a white country. Want to know why? It was established by white people, founded by white people, built by white people. White people settled the continent. And up until very recently, almost exclusively white people lived here. That's why.
If you go back to the original founding fathers, they intended this to be a European nation for white men of good stock and character.
Can you show me where in the United States Constitution it says that?
It wasn't in the Constitution.
It wasn't in the Constitution because they didn't believe it.
The founding...
What does the phrase e pluribus unum mean?
Why is that relevant?
Because it was on every founding document and presidential seal from our founding, which means out of many, one. You, sir, and your ideology is not conservative. It is right-wing, identitarian, and has no place in the conservative movement, my friend. Get out of line. Get out of line. USA, USA.
So it's a very good thing that Nissim Black is bringing here about the Constitution. I have receipts that show that those people who had infiltrated the universities and those professors who opened the door for that infiltration, the one thing they had in common that they had all disliked the American Constitution. The professors that had opened the door for the evildoers and the Trojan horses of Islam and communism into the American minds, into the education system, what they all had in common is that they actually disliked the American Constitution. This is what they're fighting against. They are fighting against the American Constitution. Why are they fighting against the American Constitution? Because the American Constitution is not slave economy. Slave economy is what they want. Okay, thank you, Tim. And also, guys, for those who understand what I'm saying, I want to say the first link in the description below is to join the movement that I'm building to bring back the backbone of you see, just like the backbone and the core of the identity of the Americans and many others, by the way, because I spoke to today to a student that studies in Argentina, and he also described many similar stories. Those Trojan horses had infiltrated everywhere, and now the Milei government is fighting them. Like there is a war between the government in Argentina right now, which is conservative, like right-wing Milei, which is great, against the universities, like to a degree where they shut off their electricity of the universities and stuff. There are crazy stories there. I spoke to a student there today who I asked to report what's going on. So he is part of that army. So what do you do when you sign up in that form that I have in the first link in the description? First of all, you can tell me what's going on in your area. One of the things that we don't know, we need to map how badly each area was infiltrated and what kind of language is used. So please go sign up so I could also share with you the plan and parts of the parts that I don't want to say online, not because there is something there that is not righteous, but because I know that because I know they did it on purpose, I know that they would hunt us down. And I have a whole plan on how to make that happen without them noticing us until it's too late. So to make that plan happen, I need to limit the amount of people who can actually access the full information and the full data, which means that those who sign up and answer probably will be exposed to it, as well as first and foremost, I'm gonna send many of you like a questionnaire, things that information and data that needs to be collected. So there are different roles there, different things to do. So go to the description, and in the first link is a form to join the movement to bringing thinking back. So we're gonna make thinking great again. We're gonna flip what the USSR and the Nazis and the Islamists had done to the education system in the West to make them so susceptible and so ready to be enslaved by foreign powers. And if I want to say, and I'm going to say it very simply so you guys understand. So no, don't say nobody told you. If you don't join this fight, if nobody does what needs to be done, we're going to die. They're going to kill us. Those zombies, they're murderers in the making. So it's that or death. So decide. I say you better join me. And I'm not kidding when I say I need people. If we don't do it, if we don't reverse it, and I know how it was done, so I know how, like I built a plan to reverse it, and it's not so simple. So you'd have to follow orders. So yes, in a sense that you would have to trust me, but believe me, those orders would make sense. So you can question the orders I gave you, and they would make sense 100%. So the first thing would be checking out what's going on in the education system. And there is a whole questionnaire that I built for parents, teachers, students, just so that I would know what's going on and where the hotspots are. So join or die. Yes, join or die. Thank you. Yes, that's the thing. Join or die. Join or die. I hope I made it clear. Okay. Thank you. Let's go back to Nissim Black here.
USA.
You acknowledge that your point of view is fundamentally anti-American. From the founding fathers, the framers,
100%. Americanism is a heresy in the Catholic Church. You'd know that if you knew anything.
Okay,
you
so
get all
why the fuck do you even in this country? Why not go fucking live in Rome? Or why be in the United States and try to change this into some theocratic regime when that's not fundamentally what the country is about?
We want to make it better.
So overtly saying that you want to run it as a theocratic regime, that you want religion and God to be the number one thing we answer to.
No, I don't disagree with the theocracy. I don't believe in it in the way that obviously probably Nick Fuentes. I don't believe in it in the same way as radical Islam and jihadists. But I think the idea is and what's actually biblical. And, obviously, even before King Saul, Shaul, or before David HaMelech, King David, before them, the idea was, and remember the disappointment of Samuel, that the people would take on an actual earthly king, right? So in every way, the Bible supports God, ruling, right? But obviously with kindness and with different things like that. I don't want to sound like I'm crazy, but I'm not 100% against that. But the way that Charlie is going to talk about the Constitution, he's talking about the Constitution of man basically working with God to provide a constitution that inherently is in line with godly values. Just see how he answers this.
And not the Constitution? Yes.
As I said, I believe America is the greatest country in the history of the world. I believe the Constitution is the greatest political document ever written. The Constitution was not written for the times. It was written to stand the test of time. Because despite how technology continues to advance, human beings stay exactly the same. We are self-centered, broken by nature, envious, narcissistic individuals that will always try to serve our self-interest. The Founding Fathers realized that there was this pattern, so they developed a system of government that would decentralize the evil as far as possible and try to have the most representation imaginable. That's why the Constitution is the greatest political document ever written.
I don't want to get married. What are we going to do, Chad? It's absolutely cooked. I just wish I could marry myself, I just wish I could marry me. But I can't have kids with me,
And I can tell you I'm super blessed. I have the best wife in the world. We have an amazing life. Building a family is the coolest thing ever. And my prayer for all of you is that you one day can do that.
The straightest thing you could do is to never have sex. And everyone knows that's true.
The greatest joy I've ever had is coming home to my little daughter running up to my leg. There's nothing that even comes close to it. Not flying on Air Force One, not meeting with presidents. That pales in comparison to your little girl coming up and squeezing your leg.
Raise your right hand. All right, everybody raise your right hand. Raise your right hand.
Repeat after me. I will kill, rape, and die for Nicholas J. Fuentes.
The young men that are lost, and if any young man is listening to this right now, like stop watching porn, stop, smoking weed, stop drinking endlessly, find yourself back to church. That will reorient your life.
I agree.
And do what the church tells you to do, right? Find a woman, marry her, provide, have more kids than you can afford. That's my advice for young men.
Yes.
Don't play the victim, even though you legitimately can play the victim card on everything we've said.
Agree.
The mindset of a victim is parasitic to your soul.
So my brother-in-law actually said this to me, and I actually think he's right. Now, in the beginning, I didn't know a lot about Nick Fuentes, but what he actually pointed out to me is that not only does he think that he's a Hitler-type figure, he is now trying to sort of work covertly. Right, he's pulling back on a lot of his rhetoric and the way that he say the things that he did. He went on PBD. He looked like he was a human, That's what he looked like on PBD. And he looked as if he was much more moderate than as extreme as he's been. And I actually think that my brother-in-law is honest, and he says that he's just trying to position himself into a place where he looks more normal than what he is. And then it could be that perhaps this person will literally be Hitler. And I don't, Rumble has to do what it has to do, and I appreciate the fact that Rumble exists for those when there's free speech, because obviously that protects everybody. However, this guy is the epitome of evil.
You guys, I hope you all follow Nissim Black. He's great. This guy tried everything, tried Christianity, tried Islam, grew up in the United States. So it's very interesting. He understands a lot of cultures from the inside. Clearly now he's a Hasidic Jew living in Israel, which is very interesting to hear his takes as a former American criticizing people who go against Israel, where he's like, I know what it is. I wasn't like, I love America, grew up American. So it's very interesting to hear him. So here, let me show you Tucker, the way he behaved on the stage and how different it looks when he does it compared.
You're worth $50
I'm not worth $50 million.
30 to 50.
Get off
the
fucking internet.
It's just amazing to me. So I don't know, Charlie, going against, not understanding how awful that decision that he did was when he decided to cooperate with somebody like Tucker Carlson, who spat on his grave. Basically, from the first moment. Yes, this is exactly, I've never heard of it. Nissim Black. Nissim with an M at this. So Nissim means miracles. Nissim is an Hebrew name, so it's with an M in the end. So Nissim Black. Yes, thank you, Lily. Nissim Black. Yes. All right, check it out. Okay.
You're worth $50.
I'm not worth $50 million.
30 to 50.
Get off the fucking internet, son. Don't stop believing that stuff. $50 million?
Go back to cable news.
Sorry.
No, but I'm just, look.
Okay, you're too annoying. So I like the last chick who disagreed with me, and then we could have a normal conversation.
For a guy who has made a career of just asking questions, he sure does seem a little ticked off about somebody just asking him a question, don't he? I mean, be honest with y'all, as much as there is to unpack in that clip, and we will. Oh, believe me, we will, because I got time today. Charlie spent his entire life answering questions, most of which were bad faith, most of which were argumentative in nature. And not one time do you find a clip where Charlie popped off cussing the dude out or chick or whoever he's dealing, or somewhere in between, these individuals.
Honestly, I don't know if I wouldn't cuss people who ask me stupid questions. I didn't really try too much, so I don't know. Honestly.
Individuals he was dealing with were confused, right? Not once do you find him in a place where he was cussing somebody out, blushing, and essentially calling for that person to be called away from the mic because he didn't like the question. Instead, he probably would have said something like this. Like some of us who are being accused of being paid $7,000 every time we mention Israel in a positive light.
Yeah, we're all still waiting for our paycheck, believe me. And also, honestly, I'm still waiting for Qatar to offer something, but they still didn't come and offer anything yet. Honestly, don't you think it's gonna be a great win if you give me money, Qatar? Listen, they paid everybody. They even apparently they even paid Mark Huckabee. So, and they pay obviously everybody in America now. So, what about me? So, anyway, no, Mossad are cheap. Israeli institutions are cheap. So annoying. Why are Israelis so cheap? Can you imagine? Like, I'm doing this, and I basically like living off people's pity, as in, like, you know, nobody's want to pay me proper salary.
My own worldview, no, you're not just about to use Christ's name. However, turns out that that moment right there wasn't actually about that kid using the Lord's name in vain. What that was about was I was already kicking you off the stage because you asked me an uncomfortable question. Now, this is the sort of thing
Notice
that
how what they do. Yesterday, we talked about the president of Ireland, the new elected president of Ireland, which is a monster. She was smiling when a person was getting kicked out of the stage while everyone else were cheering. And now Tucker Carlson here is also kicking someone out of the stage because they asked a question that they didn't want to answer. Coincidence? I think not. By the way, let me see how the crowd reacts.
that makes me go, you know what I mean? I ask myself the question, what is Tucker Carlson's net worth? So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because when you have that much defensiveness about something, I am automatically going to assume this. This is just me. Maybe this is saying Christ-like, this is wrong, but I am automatically assume that you're so defensive because maybe there's just something about it actually. Maybe there's something. I'm not saying always, right? Sometimes it's because you've been lied on and, you know, you're angry and you're feeling all types of way. But in this.
Okay. Oh, here, found it. Here, maybe.
Let him do the daggone thing.
Oh, come on, play it.
Let him consume himself alive.
Well, look.
Just stop.
Why did it stop? I want to see how people reacted.
So I kind of just don't see a lot of change between, you know, the Biden administration and now the Trump one in foreign policy.
Nice.
You know, we're still giving a shit ton of money to like Israel and Ukraine. Nothing is happening.
So watch his face.
That's interesting.
Watch his face. This is so good.
Reacting.
You know, the war's not stopped. He promised it'd be done in a day, and it's, I don't know, how many months? 8 months or something like that. It's a long time. Your dad was in the CIA.
It's like, finally, they planted one for me. Now, this is too good. Oh, this is too good. Yes, I did watch this one ahead of time a few times. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Dad was in the CIA, and I was wondering, does our government even want war to stop? Do they want conflicts to end? It seems like we have a difference of interests where we're getting told one thing. Government even want or something.
Do y'all see how he just sandwiched that little thing in there?
Something like that. It's a long time. Your dad was in the CIA.
That's absolute cinema right there. Just sandwiches that in. Look at just, he's building him up. Your dad was in the CIA.
You guys, sign up in the form that is linked in the description below. I only see that one guy or two people like signed up since I started talking, but a lot more claim they did. So unless you had bought lube and are ready to whatever is coming, I promise to you, you're going to get effed because they did everything. And our side did absolutely nothing. So I'm going to say even more. If we don't fight back, we deserve what's coming. And just so you know what's coming. So sign up. I'm tired of losing. I don't like it. We're going to win. Those are brainless bots. You think we cannot win against them? We will win. But somebody needs to be ready to do something.
And I was wondering, does our government even want war to stop? Do they want conflicts to end? It seems like we have a difference of interests where we're getting told.
Greenack, you cannot be tired of winning if you didn't win. Even once. Sign up. Crunch, you have a special exception. I know that you prefer the lube. I understand, like, it's okay. It's okay. Crunch, you are special. You don't have to sign up.
one thing and the other is happening, and I feel like there's not enough communication between different sects of government, and I really think the deep state's controlling everything and we have no control.
Well, let me.
Where do you think he's going to start? You guys give me a little guess in the comment. Where do you think in all of that, the whole is like something off of a Groyper thread, basically what this kid was going on about. Where do you think he will start?
Let me start at, obviously, you probably sense that I agree with a lot of that. Obviously, leave my father out of it. I'm going to have to kick your ass, which I could do, by the way.
Here, why did the crowd think is it funny?
Can somebody find me one clip of Charlie Kirk standing or sitting up there making a remark like that because he is personally offended? Somebody had like an F Charlie Kirk shirt on, and he almost gave like a compliment to it. Because it turns out that he wasn't that sensitive. He's still a 31-year-old kid and, was not perfect because he is a human like the rest of us. But it's interesting how how old is Tucker?
Oh.
This.
Anyway.
You don't want to change from your wicked.
Where is where is this thing? Where Tinashe, come on. I don't understand. Anyway, it goes on and on about nothing of value because he has nothing of value, this Tucker Carlson. And just like on his debut, he was like, okay, that's it. He was like, it's as if then the how is it called? Like the coffin, like it missed any nails of TPUSA, as if it had needed more nails to like make sure that the coffee is sealed. And I like, no, they continue banging. Okay, so I thought I'd add just another moment here and give a shout out.
To give you over to your reprobate mind. And after that, what happened?
I don't know if you guys remember the interview I had with Kia Willis, where she explained how she was told as a child that she's not a woman because she has leadership skills, and she was a little child, so she thought she was non-binary until she completed puberty and discovered she's a woman. She was too smart to be fooled. And I have to say, like, it's very interesting to hear what she's saying. This girl, she understood how to ask questions. Like, she has a very inquisitive mind. So is
it possible to be both?
Here.
This really shouldn't need to be said, but no.
Her. Pinterest, too damp but we'll watch very relaxing and help with stress from Wood Swing Media. Thank you. I'm relaxing you. Honestly. Thank you. But thank you for your support. You guys, if you just want to give money, and that would also just, I understand there is a lot of different types of jihad. There's the jihad of lisan, like in jihad of the tongue. And there's the jihad of, the jihad where things go boom. This one is very familiar. And then there is, of course, the jihad of tzedakah. So those who contribute money, your guys are also taking part of the jihad to bring the brains back to humanity. Here's the thing that I want you to know. I'm going to use their tactics to subvert what they've done. I believe that you need to do what works. The way they had built jihad works. We're going to do the same. We're going to have the old forms of jihad, but our jihad would bring humanity back on its feet. And we're going to use all the subversion tactics of the USSR as well, because it works. But we're going to use it not to take questioning away of the education system, and not to take the ability to literally have proper research away from the education, but to reinstall it. I believe in science. What they had done works. I understand how to read the Quran, right? And the jihad thing. It's people who want to take over the world. And then there are the stupid Muslims who submit. But it is a conquest manual. And I read it as a conquest manual. So jihad of any form for this cause is welcome. And we're going to use the truth because we don't need to lie. That's the beauty of it, because we're fighting for something that is good. We're fighting for science. We're fighting for inquiry. We're fighting for independent thinking. We're going to use the truth because we don't need to lie. There is no need to lie. The truth is on our side. So we don't need to use a jihad of lisan by manipulating truth. No, we're going to use it to manipulate language, to subvert the abuse they did to language, so that everything would make people, bring them into the realm of logic, reason, prosperity. And here's the one thing that you need to understand. We will win. We will win. Losers? Not on our team. Winners. We will win. Okay. I hope I made that clear. So thank you. And please, those who don't want to be on the ground, acceptable. Accept it. It helps. I'm not going to lie. People need food. I need food. And believe me, putting all my money and resources on doing this project is. I also need to feed myself, so 100% that helps. So yeah. No, it's not the end here. Let me share what my friend Kia here had said. She really helped me realize what happened in the American education system, because I went and checked, and it was literally the same manuscript as was used in the for communism. Yeah, there was one difference though, that I figure out. So what they did in the United States, and I made a video about it, they took away math, and when you take away math, you take away logic. They didn't do it in Russia. In Russia, they prided themselves in mathematics. They saw it like as a goal, and as a result, unfortunately, the brainwashing is way more effective in the United States because they targeted math there as well, because they want to bring it down, not just sell an ideology.
So, unifying with neo-Nazis is not going to save civilization. Hello, Internet. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. So the Republican Party is having a lot of infighting right now, specifically on Twitter, and I have a lot of thoughts. So this whole situation started a few weeks ago when Politico published an article about the Young Republicans, and that story went viral on social media. If you haven't heard about this article, the report revealed private messages that were leaked from a Telegram group chat that included leaders from the Young Republicans organization. According to the Politico report, the leaked messages have some pretty disturbing content. Hopefully this video doesn't get taken down for repeating what's in those messages, but some of the specific things that were said, and this is an official Republican Party affiliated organization. The leaders from the Young Republicans called Black people monkeys and watermelon people. They talked about sending their opponents to gas chambers and talked about how they thought Jews were dishonest. And they referred to rape as epic and slavery as based. Now, what I expected the Republicans to do, and what I would have done if I was a prominent voice for the Republican Party, would have been to very quickly and publicly condemn those chats, just to come out and say, hey, this is not what we stand for.
See, this is the thing. You're asking, like, I just don't get how X is so influential. It's not. It's not. I tell you, everything that's on the internet is delayed. It means like it already happened in private chats and real life, like way before. I'm 100% sure of it.
of language is not acceptable, especially because Republican leaders have been very vocal in saying that these ideas are not what the Republican Party stands for. In fact, the main argument that I've seen Republicans make is that accusations of racism, sexism, incitement to violence are really just straw men made up by the Democrats who don't want to engage with their legitimate ideas. If that really is the case, if all of these things really are just stereotypes made up about the Republicans, then again, a quick public condemnation would have been one of the easiest ways to show that, yeah, these ideas are not welcome within the party. And let me be clear, I did see a lot of people online saying exactly this. A lot of people were very disgusted by these chats and were very publicly saying, because they cared about the reputation of their party, that the ideas in the group chat.
By the way, did I mention and say that you should go follow her? First of all, she's very pretty and cute. Second of all, what she's saying is based.
Chat did not reflect
Kia Willis, check her out.
Republican values, which was the right thing to do. The Young Republicans National Federation, in fact, made a public statement condemning the group chat. Bravo, that is exactly what needed to be said about these group chats. There were also a lot of people online who didn't want to condemn these very obviously terrible things said in the group chat because of cancel culture. Maybe I need to do an entire video on this concept and how cancel culture is now being used by a lot of Republicans to deflect from taking responsibility and to stop people from.
By the way, so when I say that we're going to use the same tactics they use because it works, that includes cancel culture. You see, but in my version, it would be called merit culture. And here's how it would look like. If you don't have the skills, afuera. Cancelled. All right? So it works. Cancel culture works. You just need to understand what it is when you actually use it in the right context. No merit, afuera, out.
Criticizing them. Let me just make my stance on this very clear. No, the people who are in this group chat should not be going to jail, nor will they be. They shouldn't be barred from ever being able to work again. They should be able to learn and grow and move on from this. They also shouldn't be representing a political party. They also would have been rightfully fired from their positions if they were caught saying that they supported socialism, because that is not.
Yeah, thank you. Like J.D. Vance, who's secretly supporting socialism, I saw. He uses socialist coded language. That's what I suspect. I want him to go out and expose his actual belief system when it comes to economy.
Not what the Republican Party stands for. So yes, I think the Republicans who were trying to distance them from the party was 100% the right thing to do. But like I said before, there were a lot of people, and some pretty influential people, who refused to condemn the things said in this chat. Here's what J.D. Vance had to say about this on the Charlie Kirk Show.
And I really don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke, telling a very offensive stupid joke, is cause to ruin their lives. And at some point, we're all going to have to say, enough of this BS. We're not going to allow the worst moment in a 21-year-old's group chat to ruin a kid's life for the rest of time. That's just not okay.
The members of the Young Republicans are aged between.
Here's the thing, all right? Saying rape is epic, slavery is based, and that socialism is good. Afuera. Yeah. See, this is why I love Kia. She right away had labeled socialism together with rape and slavery. She's a smart woman, I'm telling you.
18 and 40, so these were not minors or children in any sense of the word. And the people in this chat were not new recruits or the youngest members either. They were leaders, and reportedly they were aged 24 to 35. So no, these were not kids telling a joke. These were full-grown adults. Some of them were not that much younger than Vance himself. And let me repeat, criticizing them is not the same thing as ruining their lives. Republicans and Democrats both criticize each other. They should be criticizing people within their own parties, and that is not destroying their lives, taking away their freedom of speech, or any of these other excuses people are coming up to deflect from that criticism. But let's say, for argument's sake, we assume that these full-grown adults were just joking. They weren't taking this seriously. They were all laughing on the other side. These are still jokes, comments, whatever you want to call them, that are inappropriate for someone to make in a leadership position representing a political party. It was not funny when we saw even normal people joking about, say, Charlie Kirk's assassination. It is not funny to see leaders of a political organization joking about this stuff here. But really, there's a bigger issue here. The elephant in the room, and the thing that J.D. Vance doesn't want to address, is that there's no evidence that these were jokes, and there are a growing number of people within the Republican Party who genuinely think this way. A lot of popular social media influencers right now have grown their following over the last few years, expressing the same ideas that were expressed in this group chat. For example, Nick Fuentes is now the second most watched streamer on Rumble. Here's some of the things Nick Fuentes has said on his show.
I'm a misogynist, and I didn't choose that. I didn't choose to be born. Touch, I want a relationship. You know what I want? Total Aryan victim.
But by the way, this is so important. I'm a misogynist. He hates women. I didn't choose to be born. A mother, like a woman birthed him. I didn't choose to be born. These are death cults. Death cults.
That's all I want.
And this is, by the way, why I made a video talking about things were taken for granted, and one of them was jail, and the other one was motherhood. Don't take motherhood for granted. Being a mother is something that needs to be done right. Otherwise, you get an Fuentes. I mean, even if you do it right, you might get an Fuentes. So
I didn't choose that. All I want is revenge against my enemies and a total Aryan victory. I'm just like Hitler. How dare you call me a fake cell? If Hitler were alive today, you would call him a fake cell. How dare you? Banning gay marriage is back on the menu. Banning sodomy is back on the menu. Banning contraceptives is back on the menu. And basically, we're having something like Taliban rule in America in a good way.
That's who we are. Ted Kaczynski, Killdozer, Hitler, like that is what we are capable of. That is what is in our DNA. We should try to get a little bit of a sense of identity. A white man gets pissed off and he starts bombing people across the country, and all the king's men cannot stop him. A white man gets pissed off.
I love how he thinks that, like, what do you mean a white man gets pissed off and they start bombing? Or like a white man, I heard him say, like, a white man, like one day a white man he builds a tank. Like, this dude is, does he think he has any scientific merit? Does he think he has any ability to build whatever? Like the Nazis, their scientific output, they went from being the most scientifically advanced people to not being on that level at all. And if Nazism had not been demolished and had not been and they had, if it was several years more, then they would have had zero scientific output. They literally ruined their own science output. They lost their ability to do the science when they started adopting Nazism as an ideology. It doesn't work together. You cannot do both. Because it's questioning. Science requires the ability to ask questions. When you ask questions, you develop a strong sense of identity. When you start developing when you have a strong sense of identity, you don't follow orders. When you don't follow orders, you are not a convenient soldier to have. You cannot have both. So this is delusional thinking. This is delusional thinking. The Nazis didn't have an atom bomb. Why? Why? They were this close. Here's a full book of a guy named Chaim Weinstein. And he learned German just to go to, I don't know, I think it's only in Hebrew. Here's the thing. He learned German and went to the archives because he tried to understand, as a scientist himself, how can it be that the Germans that had literally all the ingredients, all the science, how can it be that they didn't reach? Like, they had everything to build a plutonium atomic bomb. They had everything. How did they not have an atom bomb? And he went and studied, and they went through everything. And he showed because of their culture. Because the ideology they believed in made it impossible for them to get an atomic bomb. Genius.
he builds a tank and destroys the entire town. A white man gets pissed off and he declares war on the world and almost wins.
He has ranted on his podcast that he wants to take away women's rights to vote. He blames
the thing. This is why it's such a shame it is not available in English, because he went into the German archives, into things that were locked, and he did research on things that are not available online on anywhere to try to understand what happened there. So there are a lot of misconceptions of people like trying to build theories of what happened, but they're based on information that he actually went and checked everything. And I asked him like right away, like, do you have an English version? He said like, no, like he literally is the only one who did it and went to the archives to try to understand. So what I'm telling you is not something that, unfortunately, there are a lot of things that are not available. So here's the thing. So I see a lot of people saying, oh, it was this or that. Okay. Now, I don't know, but this guy, like what he did to write this book, I believe him. So maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that anyone did as much as he did. So, and I met him, so I don't think he's an idiot.
All of the world's problems on Jews. He said he wants revenge against his enemies and total Aryan victory, and he has called for Catholic Taliban rule in the US. And none of this is a joke. He has been pretty consistently advocating for this stuff for years. Following the controversies surrounding the Young Republicans group chat and the concern over the rise of neo-Nazi influence on the Republican Party, Daily Wire influencer Matt Walsh weighed in with his thoughts on Twitter. He did not
Werner Heisenberg. Yes, like this makes sense, by the way. It's not wrong. Like he also thinks it was drag on purpose. But here's the thing, the reason that he could do it, like the reason they could drag it, the reason they could sabotage the development the way they did is because of the culture, right? Because they had everything. It was like ridiculous that they didn't realize how to do it.
Speak out to condemn the Young Republicans group chat, nor to distance himself from the neo-Nazis in the party, but instead, Matt Walsh called for unity. Many people were surprised that Matt Walsh seemed to be defending what was said in the group chat and defending some of these neo-Nazi influencers, and asked, what did he mean by unity? This was especially surprising because Matt Walsh in the past seemed to be pretty good at recognizing that white supremacists and authoritarians were not actually in line with Republican values. I mean, are people who care about the Constitution, who care about liberty, who care about individualism in the United States supposed to team up with people like Nick Fuentes? Matt Walsh never responded back to these questions directly. He just kept doubling down, saying vague things like he wanted to win and civilization was at stake.
This is what worries me. Like, even you saw the conversation I had with Eyal Yacobi, who's 100% Jewish, who's fighting against Nazism, and that's like, anti-Semitism, or Matt Walsh. Like, in the end of the day, they all went through the same education system. They all did, like, on both sides, everybody. Like, I don't know how she, like the way she is, right? And also the way Tinashe is. But Tinashe, for example, I think he grew up in he was born in Africa, and even like AP was born in Turkey, right? And like somebody like David Wood, he had like this crazy jail story, but like so I think Tinashe was born at, or like somewhere in Africa, I forgot where. I forgot, but anyway, so it's like something like okay, so Kia here, she grew up like in Texas and everything, like she went through the entire system. I don't know, like, but it's like they all went through that indoctrination system. It's like you don't know who is broken, who is not. I don't know what makes the difference between those who manage to get themselves kind of out of it, because to me she seems like she's ready, she's willing to be the one person, like alone, right? Maybe that's the thing, right? Because these people wouldn't say things that would make them popular. They never get to be popular, so they never actually gather a crowd. And we need to look for like maybe smaller channels that are willing to say the truth to find these people. So I don't know, it's very interesting to me. But when it comes to like in general, they all went through the same, like they all went through the same psychological abuse. So it's like, and even like a guy like Charlie Kirk, where I feel like sometimes like what they do, sometimes some people, what they do is that they have a very strong moral system and they just stick to it, like in a very strict manner, so that like they always go fall back to their moral system that was installed to them. But it's not like because they can actually question and understand fully like the whole thing. It's not because they can question anything, but just because they have such a like strong value system installed. I don't know. It's just so weird to me. So scary too.
Vance also doubled down on his stance after receiving pushback by bringing.
Hi, Sarah. Hello.
Up text messages from Democrat Jay Jones, who was running for Attorney General of Virginia. In 2022, Jones sent a string of threatening text messages about Virginia GOP Speaker Todd Gilbert. At one point, Jones wrote, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. He later said that it would take Gilbert's wife.
Okay, I'm gonna name you here, Mr. Leon Indoctrination. I hope you signed up in the form. You understand what's going on? Sign up. There's a form. First link in the description below. I want to see you there. Sarah, I hope you also signed up. Sign up. Go sign up.
Holding her dying children in her arms for gun policy to change. And in another conversation, Jones described Gilbert and his wife as evil and said that they were breeding little fascists. Vance brought up these messages to argue that Jones's remarks were far worse than anything said in a college group chat. Again, this was not a college group chat. These were full-grown adults, but let's talk about college for a second. Now, I've been speaking out against the left for years, and I began speaking out about them by talking about some of the rhetoric that I heard when I was in college. At the time, I was surrounded by people who were calling to defund the police, calling white people oppressors and arguing that words were violence, screaming "eat the rich," and arguing for the mutilation of trans kids. Whenever I would shed light on those comments, whenever I would talk about the things that were happening right in front of my eyes, Democrats would flood my comments and use the exact same arguments that Vance is making now. That they were just kids, that they were just trying to be edgy, that no one really believed those ideas, and they were—
Okay, I want to isolate a little thing here, all right? So what had happened, one of the first tactics that is very effective is to merge ideas and people. What does it mean when your identity is strong and you are and it's question based? It means that obviously you are willing to face reality because you're questioning, and you don't take anything as like nothing would break you because you are willing to investigate, you're willing to face reality. And even if reality is hard and it's going to make you cry, and it's like you to accept it and like grieve the world that the things that you thought were true, you do like face it, adjust, and it's not gonna damage what you understand you to be, because you are an inquisitive, truth-seeking, strong person who is willing to face reality and distinguish between good and bad, whatever that, you know. But here's the thing. What they do is they merge those identities with the thoughts, like with your group and with your ideology. So whenever you try to say, hey, something is not good, right? Some idea is a bad idea, it goes straight away to a personal attack. a person, like somebody's like, people are perceiving it as if the core of what they are is being challenged, but it's not. What is like the challenge here is, hey, how about we don't make fun of rape or socialism or murder or slavery? I don't know if it's a good idea to make fun of those things. Instead of saying, that's interesting, actually, if we think about it, we take a moment and pause, and it's like, maybe we should not make fun of that. And we were just caught up in the moment, and that was, just a momental slip from our part. And nothing, it's not personal. It's not personal because it's not a good idea. It has nothing like, and we all have that, okay? I can tell you that I can say that, for example, if I go out and do something and drink and maybe wake up in the morning to when I have a very important meeting in the morning and I know I'm going to screw it up because my brain is still a little bit off, a bit still drunk, not too completely there. And I go there and in a very important meeting, I'm going to mumble and say things that are incoherent. Can I not say that that I had a sequence of stupid decision making, which I can really say that they were stupid the whole way around? But sometimes you just roll with it. You're like, no, it's fun at the moment. But then, like, somebody can tell you, listen, maybe it wasn't a good idea. It's not. It's nice. What is drinking my personality? Is making fun of slavery a personality trait? It's not. It's not. But what they did in the education system, that they merged those two. They merged it. They merged ideas with identity. And that's how you get control. So Palestinian Syrian, you won't question your national Zionist indoctrination. I did question it. I did question it. I searched it. I tried to understand the logic behind it. In fact, for some time I was like, heavy. Can't we just like, here's the thing, like a teenager. I remember my dog, when she was like, until she was like a year and a half, she didn't know how to pee. She sometimes peed like a female dog. Sometimes she peed like a male dog. And then when she finished her puberty, then she realized she's a female. Okay. So I was also like that. I was like, I'm a world, a citizen world. And then I went through development phases. And then I realized that when you have borders, you have competing ideas. When you have competing ideas, you can get things better. What we are protecting when we are protecting Zionism, and when we have a country to protect the Jewish people, we are actually protecting the Torah. And what I also realized that there is no equivalent to the kind of scientific moral research that was done throughout those millennia that were written here in the Bible in any other culture, unfortunately, or any other textbook. And there is actually no other people who understand that moral system better. And in order to save that scientific research that was done millennia after millennia, and like it was encompassed in a very smart way, then you have to have Zionism, nationalism, and Judaism and everything to protect, to understand that this is the way it is. Because sometimes when you have a good idea, you have to defend it until the world is ripe to defend it itself. So this is what I say. You can come and say, hey, I'm criticizing your nationalism and Zionism. I can simply explain to you that no matter how you turn it over, you'd understand that nationalism is a concept that meant to create borders in order to safeguard, above everything else, a certain type of structure of idea. It happens to be that the idea we are safeguarding with Zionism is the structural culture that had created and rewarded dissent and independent thinking in its members, which makes the members of that culture very susceptible to attacks by those who want to create slavery pyramid schemes, because questioning and questions are the fundamental thing that would break down their schemes to take over and to exploit and have evil control systems. Does it make sense to you, sir? Or are you too stupid to understand? I'm probably too stupid to understand. So after going through and understanding and really researching that whole system, that's the thing that I have concluded. And so you can say that, but I can tell you that indeed I can protect it with no problems because I am willing to question, investigate, and check. Do you understand, sir? So yes, my identity, who I am, is very solid. Is very solid. And no matter what kind of idea you'd bring and try to attack, I did the research and the due diligence to protect it and understand it. And I would have and then there are things that I learned that I thought were true and I learned were wrong. And after some time of grievance, grief, I had accepted it as well. So this is the way it is. And I also understand what it looks like when somebody is trying to gaslight a person, because you bring nothing of value. You're trying to say that I was indoctrinated, and yet you had brought zero evidence to show that something that I claimed is wrong, because you cannot. You're not driven by truth. You're driven by zombie-like brainless madness. And yes, do I need to pretend that I would care about whatever happens to you and would happen to you? No, I don't, honestly. But I also know that people like you are very dangerous, and I don't want you to take over. And I don't want people who have a brain and understand that how people like you could be exploited to take over either, because that creates a lot of death and destruction. And therefore, go to the link in the first link in the description below and fill the form and join us, or let the idiots win. And if you will let the idiots win, then listen, when you get raped, and I promise to you that they rape everything that they see, it doesn't matter if it's male or female, remember this girl that told you something and you didn't listen and you didn't try to fight. All right? That's what I ask. I ask that when you're, whether you have lube or not, when you get that fucked, and I want you to remember and look back and you say, did I fight? Or could I have taken action to do anything and I chose not to? Just know that somebody told you and you chose not to. Understood? Thank you.
Were more important things to talk about. And look at where we are now. The ideas that once seemed confined to college lectures and online spaces didn't stay there. In just a few short years, children did begin receiving gender transition hormones and surgeries. California recently opened a state office for slavery reparations. Many major cities like Los Angeles slashed police budgets after the BLM riots, even though many of those cities refunded the police due to rising crime. A healthcare CEO was assassinated in broad daylight last year, and now people are being targeted and even killed for what's deemed violent speech. The claim that online discourse is just kids being edgy didn't hold true then, and it doesn't hold true now. The question has never been whether these types of ideas will become dangerous. The question has been, are people going to speak out against these types of ideas before they start to dominate culture and influence policy? One of the biggest political influencers online right now is Candace Owens. She has over 7 million followers on Twitter. In the last few weeks, she has made several social media posts and podcast episodes insinuating, without evidence, that Israeli operatives and Jewish donors conspired with people close to Charlie Kirk in order to assassinate him. And this conspiracy theory has gone viral online. Last week, a 28-year-old man from Texas was arrested for sending death threats to Jewish conservative influencers, accusing them of being involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. His Twitter account, which was created only a month before his arrest, only followed 3 accounts. One of them was Candace Owens. And during that time, he repeatedly accused pro-Israel influencers of being Israeli operatives. This grown man wasn't making jokes. He wasn't being edgy. He heard something online, took it seriously and was acting on it and targeting individuals. Republicans claim to be fighting for civilization and fighting for Western values, but I question whether many of them really know what those terms mean. The West was built on reason, individualism, and liberty, the things that really make America great, not white supremacy and Christian theocracy. In the past, Republicans largely, although not perfectly, defended these ideas from attacks from the Democrats, although it seems like things have changed in recent years. The truth is that neo-Nazis and social justice warriors are not opposites at all. In fact, they're manifestations of the same underlying ideas. They are both identity politics obsessed authoritarians who reject the principles that make civilization possible. Although they may differ in the rationalizations that they use to justify their beliefs.
Kia, you say things so beautifully.
They are both enemies of the West. And by refusing to speak out against bigoted and authoritarian language, Walsh and Vance are showing that they believe these ideas are acceptable or at least tolerable within the Republican Party. And I'm not necessarily saying that they agree with the neo-Nazis, but because they're not speaking out against them and they're calling for unity instead, they're showing that they at least don't think these ideas are a threat. But letting bad ideas thrive and refusing to confront evil within their political party.
I just want to correct her. I think more than anything, they show that what they care about is control and not truth. They care about gain and not what's right.
Party is exactly what the Democrats did, as Walsh and Vance have both pointed out themselves. That is what has led largely to the decline of the West. Socialists and violent woke activists were given a platform and allowed to become mainstream within the Democratic Party, and we're seeing the consequences of that. But really, I don't want to hear J.D. Vance or Matt Walsh complain about the Democrats doing this if they're arguing that the Republicans should do the same thing. If Matt Walsh, J.D. Vance, and those who share their call for unity really want to save civilization...
Guys, what I want you all to do. I mean, but even though I know most of my audience is not as like, you guys are not as like, not like when Cadence sends her army to do stuff. You guys are not that nice and nice at listening to orders. Sometimes it's a good thing to listen to orders. Go flood her comments and tell her to join my cause. I talked to her already, but sometimes it takes her time to respond. So go flood her comments and tell her, hey, don't forget answering Rebecca, and you should definitely join forces with her. I love this girl. So just saying. So this is what I want you to go flood her comments with and subscribe to her channel. So yeah.
The answer is not to partner with neo-Nazis. The answer is to...
So that's her channel. Her channel is Kia Willis. Go check her out. She's great. See, Kia Willis. Go. Amazing. Go follow her. Go flood her and sign up in the forum below. Let me see how many people. A lot of people here are interview. But lube. Oh my God. Scary. Okay, but the other 20, you guys, I know not all 20 of you signed up, so go sign up and please support me. Remember, jihad, every jihad works. We need to ground people. So jihad of lisan. We need people who can speak and work as our propaganda tools. I'll give like better instructions moving, like it's gonna take a little bit, but I need the base. Also, don't forget, like, you can also translate the form and you can send it to your friends and you can have your own base. You can also abstract the fact that it is coming from me to bring others into it. But if you do that, like, let me know. Just write it in the comments. And of course, jihad of the tzedakah of giving me money is very, very, very welcome. So you can go, thank you, investor here, you can go to Buy Me Coffee or Patreon or PayPal to do this kind of jihad. All types of jihads are welcome. Please go into the forum, just fill it out and let's do it. We can win. I mean, it's not that we can win. All we have to do is start fighting, and we will win. All right. Perfect. Also, amazing, wonderful. Amazing. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody.